This King Shishak. I want a Shishak. It's similar to a she shed.
Yeah.
A little more like... Hey guys, we are so excited to be back with It's Not Complicated today. I'm Jenny Williams. I'm the senior pastor at Central United Methodist Church, and we are tramping through the Bible.
We're doing it.
All right. I'm here with my two favorite co-hosts.
I'm tramping through the Bible.
I didn't love it. I'm sorry I said it. I meant like, tramping?
Yeah.
Like through the
getting
forest?
through. Yeah. Frolicking.
Just marching. I was like
We're
marching.
ready to go.
I'm Chase. I'm the executive pastor at Central.
I'm Virginia Brown. I am the college pastor and director of the Wesley. And again, this is a good episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here. I would say it's probably not a bad idea to be mindful of any listening ears, but we do talk about some sacrifice.
Yeah.
So just be careful.
Euphemisms, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was a euphemism or two.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the Bible, friends. Guard your hearts. It's good to have the gang back together today.
Absolutely. And with snacks.
And with snacks. Virginia drove to East Arkansas to grab... Just kidding. She went to Centerton.
I went to Centerton. But it was a very long trek this morning. But it's the Hallelujah, like Hallelujah Bakery in Centerton.
Nice.
And we've got some maple almond swirly nut crunchies.
Ooh.
That was very wordy.
Okay.
That is what it was. I'm gonna butcher this one. Rulach
Rugla.
cookie. It's berry perfect, so it's got berries in it. And then there's chocolate caramel matzah brittle.
That is so cool.
It is amazing. I might have already had some of that. And then what they're known for is their cinnamon rolls.
Don't forget the...
Squirrel cookie.
Oh, yes. And it's specifically the secret squirrel cookie.
There's
And
something...
everything should be kosher, right?
It is. There's...
Did I do it? Yeah. Yeah, I did. I said the word right.
Earlier, Chase said, "Are these culture?" And I was like,
Culture.
God, Chase, yes, they are, in fact, from a different culture, but they are also kosher.
Yeah.
And we had to have a lesson. So.
Words are fun.
Anyway, we are, speaking of culture, we are diving deep into the ancient Israelite culture again. As on par with last week, these stories are repetitive. But it's really just like I am absorbing these stories like never before. They are written on my heart and my hand, whether I like it or not.
That's right.
So we're jumping into 2 Chronicles chapter 10, and we are on day 99. Is that right?
Day 99, I think so.
That is.
Look at us.
Wow. So chapter 10 of 2 Chronicles, Rehoboam, again, that's Solomon's son, is going to become king after Solomon dies.
Right.
And at the same time, Jeroboam, unrelated, is a royal official in Solomon's court, and he has decided that he would like to make a play at the throne.
Oh, of course.
He's been hiding out in Egypt because he and Solomon had a conflict. It's more illustrated. More details are given in the King's version of this, but we get a little bit of this in 2 Chronicles, and so he's coming back from Egypt and he's going to contest the throne. In Kings, we have the prophecy from Ahijah.
Ooh.
Not Abijah, but
Abijah.
Abijah. Oh my gosh. It's just such a good joke.
It's like the Jewish aloha.
It is. Abijah.
Anyway, that's probably not. Maybe we take that part out. I don't know. Anyway, and so we don't have that here. It's just, but Jeroboam's got a little inkling that he might want the throne. So there's going to be a contest. Rehoboam consults the elders, and they are like, your dad was a little harsh on the people. He worked them to the bone. He expected, honestly, more maybe than was humane. So if you would just soften just a touch, you will win the hearts of the people forever.
Yeah.
And Rehoboam is like, I'm going to do the exact opposite of
You know
that.
what? I just want to ask my friends.
Just want to see what they have
I'm
to
going to
say.
ask my people that are my age. I'm going to ask their opinion.
Yeah.
I do support this tactic because have you ever gotten some like really wise advice from someone
Yes.
that you hated and you're like, you know what, I'm going to ask someone else who has
Yes.
no experience
I've
who will
done it.
tell me what I want to
Yes.
hear.
Tell me what I want to hear. Yes.
Anyway, and then he goes out to the people and he says like he does the weirdest flex maybe of the Bible. He says, you know, if you thought my dad was bad, wait till you see me. My pinky finger is thicker than Solomon's waist.
I just think of like
What does this mean?
Say it again.
like Hellboy has that big like arm or whatever. He just has like a big pinky. I can take him down.
I don't know what this means. He says my pinky finger is bigger than my dad's waist.
That makes no
And
silly.
that is apparently the most savage threat that he could come up with at the time.
He's a savage.
I mean, he couldn't make
That's
a.
it.
I don't think so.
Your mom jokes weren't a thing.
No, but this.
But pinkies and waists
This is
were
right.
very, yeah.
Yeah, your mom's waist is smaller than my pinky. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
still
so
don't get
weird.
it. So anyway, the people, Rehoboam loses the hearts of most of the people. Everybody abandons him, but what?
There's. This is what it says in my.
Oh!
It's a male joke.
Okay, it's a euphemism, friends.
It's the NRSV.
According to the HarperCollins Study Bible, pinky is a euphemism for a different male body part, and we will leave it at that.
There we go. Yeah.
I still am not sure that is quite the threat that he thought it was.
Right.
But I do feel better about like his smack talking skills.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving on.
So did he tell this to all of Israel?
Yeah.
So yeah, and all of Israel was like, yeah,
Okay, dude.
whatever.
Again, do you think he like drove like a lifted truck?
He did.
Oh.
The Cybertruck of, early Judaism.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So anyway, everybody abandons the dynasty of Rehoboam except for Judah and Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
And the other tribes sort of scatter. And then they eventually circle up under Jeroboam.
I love what the communal quote was. They're like, what do we have to do with this? We have nothing to do with your pinky or whatever you got going on. And then they're like, everybody go back to your tents. Y'all, you do you. We're going to go back to our tents.
In the meantime, all the priests and the Levites throughout the region, even in the northern kingdom, they side with Rehoboam. And so they had, if you remember, they had given Levites settlements throughout the land so that they would have territory because they did not technically inherit land for their tribe. But they all ended up abandoning their land and moving to Judah because, and this is bad planning on Jeroboam's part.
Okay.
He doesn't let any of the Levites tend to the priestly duties in the northern kingdom. Instead, he gets his own dudes to serve the goat and the calf idols that he made. Remember the golden calf?
Yes.
The two of them in Dan.
Yeah.
And then apparently there's some goat idols as well.
Of course.
And so he's got his own guys handling that. And so all the Levites abandon ship and go to Judah, and they are all apart there because there's a temple there and they can serve.
Yeah. And then the chapter wraps up with like, oh, by the way, not only did he marry David's granddaughter, he had a total of 18 wives,
Oh, yeah.
60 concubines,
Oh, no.
and 88 children.
That's too many.
60 of them were daughters.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang.
Yeah. There's a lot of daughters.
Wow. Well, interesting. Chapter 12, verse 1 says this. As soon as Rehoboam had secured royal power...
He did so because most of the population were his kids.
That's fair.
I mean, honestly, he had so many.
As soon as Rehoboam had secured royal power, he, along with Israel, abandoned the law of the Lord. Now, isn't this just an indictment of everyone ever who were persons of power and
Just-
faith?
The circle is just continuing. Golly.
Well, because of this, King Shishak
Shishak.
She-shack. I want a she-shack. It's similar to a she-shed.
Yeah.
A little more like,
Boho.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. What was that, like shabby chic?
Yeah. We've got mason jars. We've got reclaimed barnwood.
I whitewashed the wood, but it's still... Anyway, never mind. Shishak came from Egypt, and he attacked Jerusalem. He brings this massive army, and Shemaiah, the prophet, is like, this is what happens when you abandon the law of the Lord. And so Rehoboam's like, oh man, you're right. I totally forgot. So it says he submitted. And so God says, well, since y'all listened and repented, I won't destroy you, but I'm just going to make you feel the pain for a little while.
Okay.
So they eventually, Egypt leaves, but it's like they do get waylaid a bit.
Dadgummit.
So then Rehoboam rules for 17 years. He dies. It says he did what was evil in the eyes of God. And then his son Abijah becomes king.
Nice.
Chapter 13 tells the story of Abijah and Jeroboam and how they go to war after only 3 years of Abijah being in office. And it says that Abijah took 400,000 troops.
So many.
And Jeroboam had 800,000 troops. And are these numbers a little sus?
I mean, yes.
How many do you think we have in our U.S. armed forces?
Hey Siri, how many people are in the U.S. Armed Forces?
2 million.
Oh, 2 million. Okay. But one of those is almost...
Forces has approximately 1.4...
Oh, well, that's a different number than what the AI said. Oh, okay. Well, that's weird. AI doesn't know.
But 800,000 and 400,000, that's almost the entire... I mean...
No, that's right. 2.079 in 2023. But then there's another one that says 1.4 million in 2022. It doesn't matter.
Oh, wow.
I have a hard time believing we've seen the land size of these spaces.
Yes.
I don't think they had 400,000 people living there, let alone troops.
No.
Unless they took every man that they had.
Or child, or whoever they could
every
grab.
human being.
Yes.
Goats, maybe? Do you think they took goats?
They probably counted the horses.
Probably. Yeah. Oh, true. Good point. Anyway, they're outmatched. However, and Abijah is like yelling taunts at Jeroboam. And while he's taunting him, Jeroboam sets up an ambush. He sends one main group from the northern kingdom to the front, and then he sends another group behind him. And they look around, they're like, oh no, we're surrounded.
We're ambushed.
But then they like cried out to God, and God helped them defeat Jeroboam, and the Israelites fled.
This is a classic story of like the villain doing like their speech all while everybody's getting untied. They're like, keep talking. Wow.
That's true. So Jeroboam dies. Abijah grows strong. He married 14 wives. He had 22 sons and 16 daughters.
Wow.
So that's that. After he died, Abijah, his son Asa became king.
I like the name.
I do too. And we remember from last time that Asa was like kind of a good king.
Yeah, he was okay.
Peace for like a decade, so that's a good start.
No kidding, especially after the history that they've had. Says he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. He removed the foreign gods. He tore down these pesky Asherah poles that keep popping up all over the place. He fortified the city. And at some point, the Cushite army came out against Judah.
I thought this was interesting. I was like, well, this is kind of like a trip that they would have to come against Judah. So it's led by Zerah from Ethiopia, which is 1,680 miles as the crow flies.
Wow.
From that place to Jerusalem. So
interesting.
Just a little walk down the street.
Yeah, they were like,
we're going to go up there.
Yeah. And it says 1 million men.
Yeah.
That number seems to be inflated, but you know,
it probably just means like a lot.
Yeah, right. Like 40 is a lot in scripture.
That's right. Yes. Like whenever I'm like,
40, a million, same thing.
I have said this to you 1,000,000 times. I probably haven't, but feels like it.
Yes.
So Asa prayed to God, and God struck the Cushites down, and there were no survivors. Which, do you think they were somewhat relieved that they didn't have to make the trip back home?
Yeah.
Just kidding. That's not funny. Okay.
Yikes.
So in chapter 15, the Lord is speaking through the prophet Azariah, and he tells Asa, if you follow, and we see this a lot with kings, God coming to them either by, audibly or through the prophets and saying, if you follow my commands, I'll be with you. But if you abandon me, God is saying this, I will abandon you. And so when Asa hears this warning, he makes the reforms that we talked about earlier. This is when he removed the idols. He repaired the altar so that they could offer sacrifices. Then he gathered all of Judah and Benjamin, as well as any of the northern kingdom immigrants that were living among them, and they all sacrificed to the Lord. Again, with these numbers, 700 oxen.
That's so many.
7,000 sheep.
That's gonna smell so bad. I mean, honestly, unless you, I don't.
No,
yikes.
you're right.
I thought this was interesting because you can take like it's just storytelling like post exile, but in around 36-ish AD, the Romans did a census and during Passover, and they counted some 256,000 lambs that were slaughtered.
Wow.
Yeah. That's when they thought like the Kidron Valley might have been stained with blood for years upon years. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. Okay, well, then 7,000 might be possible.
Yeah. They're not up to par yet.
No. So they, they all swore an oath to put anyone, at this gathering, they all swore an oath to put anyone to death who did not follow the Lord.
Okay.
Do you think this is what God meant?
I mean, his mom was one of those people, right?
Yes. Well, he removed her as queen mother because she made an Asherah pole. Did he kill her?
I don't know.
Okay.
It just says I have on mine, it disposes his own mother.
Deposes.
Deposes. I can't read.
Disposes isn't different.
I know, disposes. I was like, this is harsh.
Yeah,
Just
no,
threw
deposes.
threw her in the trash.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Compactor.
Deposes.
He deposes. But he was serious about it. He was committed to God, and because of this, there was no war for 35 years.
That's a
That sounds
while.
nice.
Yeah.
Chapter 16.
Let's do it.
So in the 36th year of his reign, Israel's king Baasha attacked. And Asa was like, okay, well, what happened was Asa took gold from the temple and sent it to Bad Ben.
Do you remember Bad Ben?
I remember Bad Ben.
Bad Ben.
Hadad or Hadad, anyway.
Couldn't say his real name, so it just became Bad Ben.
Yeah.
And asked him to help him for a fight. He didn't ask him to help for a fight. He paid him to help.
That's right,
He was
yeah.
hired
Yeah.
help. And then here's Hannah, the prophet, told Asa that it was a mistake to rely on Aram instead of God.
Yeah.
Like, why are you going to somebody else to pay them? Why don't you just,
This is Asa's kind of downfall.
Yeah. And so then, of course, turns around and the prophet says, you'll have war on your own hands from now on. You're going to get what you ask for. Let's see if you want what you get.
Yeah. You're going to get it, and if you like it, then you can have it. And if you don't like it, you still have to have it anyway. That's
right.
my version of the saying.
Of course, when you don't hear what you like to, or when you don't receive what you want to hear, and then what do? You throw them in prison.
That's right.
If you got the power, lock
Yes,
away.
so Hanani had to go to prison.
And then another downfall was like the consequence of that is Asa has a foot disease, and in our notes you wrote he gets gout. And I laughed because I was like, I was going to say plantar fasciitis.
Oh my gosh. No, but could he had like diabetes though too?
He could have what?
Like diabetes.
Did he?
No, that's what we're saying. It's
Like
a
he could
possibility.
have because like
I just like to think that he has gout.
Okay.
But I like also plantar fasciitis. Also, have
They
you ever
both
had
hurt.
one time? This just sidebar. My aunt was like, I have really bad plantar fasciitis, and I have to have it operated on. And I was like, I had that once. I took a kitchen knife and cut it right out. I meant plantar's warts. That's different.
I took a kitchen knife.
You
could just
cut a wart out yourself?
Yeah,
yeah, you do it.
It's
I've
not-
done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you go get that nitrogen dioxide.
No, I had
You just
tried
burn
that.
it.
It
You
didn't-
do that too.
You do
sometimes.
that. I did duct tape. I did the cream. I got that kitchen knife, dug it right
Oh my
out,
Gosh, I remember
it
my.
worked.
threw it in the dishwasher, and moved on with my life.
I love how Jenny and I are
not
okay
the
with
wart.
this.
Oh my gosh! I remember getting like the doctor on the wart on my hand was like, "It's so cold, this thing's gonna burn." I'm like, "What? That doesn't make any sense." It was horrible. Well, that was the saddest ending to most positive rule that we had.
That's right.
Yeah.
35, was it 35 plus 10? Was it like 45 years of total peace throughout his reign?
That's a great question. I don't think we can assign those numbers because what you'll notice in these stories is that they'll give you an overview and then they go back through and detail it. And so you're not sure if the overview is different or if it's just because it talks in Aces that he took down the high places and then it goes back through and says he received the oracle and then took down the high places. So it's like the editing was not like I have some notes for the editors, but it's fine. We'll get through it.
I think the title of this one's going to be Planner's Wart and Astropose.
Jewish snacks.
I don't think it should be Jewish.
I don't think it should be Jewish snacks. Oh my goodness.
In chapter 17, we get who? Chase.
Fat Joshua Fat, what a good king was he. He's good king who's everything a good king should be. Everybody loves him. He's one we all adore. Cause fat Joshua Fat loves the Lord.
Can we all agree to say Jehoshaphat?
Jehoshaphat.
Jehoshaphat is how I've always said it.
I have never heard that song.
It was from a kids play that we did back yonder, and so the king was large, but he calls for a fast later on when all the people come against war. There's the Hettites, the Hamishites, the Machanites, the Sheshabites, all of the different ites come together, and he's like, we're going to fast. Well, there's some other things that happen in here because
we're gonna get there,
but not him.
Yeah.
Everyone else is gonna fast, right? Because he's big fat Jehoshaphat.
No, he fasts.
That's the point.
He goes off stage, and when he comes back on stage, they're ready to go to war, and he's like, I'm guilty now.
Oh, okay.
I don't think this is body positive, but anyway. Okay, so Jehoshaphat takes over. It says he strengthened their position against Israel. He followed in Asa's footsteps mostly, except for the part where he started worshiping idols. Because Asa did that at the end of his rule, like towards the end. After he got in trouble for consulting with Aram, then he was like, well, fine, if you're going to get mad at me, I'm just going to put up an Asherah pole, apparently.
You know what? I'll just do it.
So in the 3rd year of Jehoshaphat's reign, he sends out these hype men to teach the surrounding cities. It's really interesting.
It's like national religious education program.
Yes, and he sends Levites with them. And the people loved it.
Tell me more.
And so they come into Judah. All the kingdoms surrounding Judah feared the Judahites, and they would bring tributary gifts to Jehoshaphat that made him very rich.
Yeah.
Here's where Jehoshaphat kind of goes wrong, in my humble opinion.
Yes, of course.
He decides to, and this is smart politically.
Okay.
But maybe not religiously, spiritually. He decides to shore up his relationship with the northern kingdom, which I don't know if Chronicles ever names this king, but it's Ahab.
Oh, okay.
So the northern kingdom king at the time would have been Ahab. And so he decides to shore up his relationship with Ahab and marry his daughter. We don't get her name, by the way, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
But we don't have Ahab's name either. So maybe they were like, the northern kingdom isn't the point. So they discuss together if they should attack Ramoth Gilead. And they're like, let's ask the prophets.
Hey, we should.
It's a good idea.
Yes.
400 of Ahab's prophets say, yes, you should do it.
You should.
Definitely do it.
Sounds like a great idea.
And so Jehoshaphat's like, what if we just ask one more person? Can you think of anybody who might be able to help us? And Ahab is like, oh, there's this one guy, but I hate him. He never says anything.
His name?
Micaiah?
Micaiah? I mean, it's a cool name.
Yeah, great. Micaiah. And so Ahab's like, I hate this guy, but fine, whatever. So they bring him in, and on his way in, the other prophets are like, just say yes, because that's what they want to hear. And Micaiah's like, okay. And they're like, well, what do you think? He's like, yeah, definitely. You should do it for sure.
It's very sarcastically toned.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if there should be like a Bible sarcasm font, but I think
this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Ahab's like, no, tell the truth. I know you. And he's like, fine. I actually saw all of Israel scattered over the hillside like sheep without a shepherd. And this is like a dire warning against Ahab. If you go to battle here, you're going to die. And Ahab's like, I told you. He never said anything nice about me.
See, there's a lying spirit in all the prophets.
Yes, exactly. But Nevertheless, Ahab and Jehoshaphat decide to go ahead and attack Gilead, and Ahab disguises himself going into battle, and he tries to get Jehoshaphat killed because he's the only monarch on display. But God rescues Jehoshaphat. Someone randomly shot an arrow, not knowing, and hit the king of Israel, the northern king, between the joints in his armor.
I don't know where I'm shooting. There he goes.
And they're just like blindfolded, like, shooting all over the place. Anyway, Ahab died on the battlefield.
Aw.
Done and done. Chapter 19. So chapter 19 brings Jehu back into the picture.
Ooh.
He comes out, and I think Jehu's a prophet, and he comes and asks Jehoshaphat, why in the world did you help the wicked king of the north? Like, why would you make friends with Ahab? He says, this is why God is angry at you, but at least you did take down some of those poles.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had to look it up because I was like, what does an Asherah pole look like? And so here's like an archaeological dig finding. So
That's
it looks
lame.
like a chalice. It's the one that, close the
Why would it be a pole?
It's the one in the middle.
Oh, okay.
It looks like a one of those Scentsy heaters that you put in your
It looks like the
Right?
old mill in Little Rock.
It does, but it's the size. It's no taller than this.
It's
this
like a
microphone,
tiny
which is like-
house.
Yeah, it is
12
like a
inches
tiny
tall.
house with like a cute
but
breezeway.
this is what people were getting like we put this up and they're like, ooh.
A tiny house.
I told you not to put that
goodness
tiny. I mean, I am shocked. That is just. It says it's a sacred tree. I don't know. I'm not getting.
That's the
It's
same
not giving
picture.
tree to me. Interesting. Well, anyway, don't do that. So Jehoshaphat appointed judges and sent them throughout the land to keep the people in line. And he tells them, you are an ambassador of God. So any judgment you make is on God's behalf. So you have to be like reasonable and I don't know, whatever.
Just be reasonable.
Just be reasonable. And honestly, just public service announcement, people, be reasonable. Wouldn't you like that?
Can we start over and tell the people early to be reasonable? I'm kidding.
True, right? So, chapter 20, we see that the Moabites and the Ammonites come and attack Jehoshaphat and Judah. This is the story that you were talking about in your skit. Do you want to lead this story?
This
is the
hilarious.
fast.
Okay, so Moabites, they attack Jehoshaphat. I'm going to say we're Jeho. So Jeho proclaimed a fast to ask for God's help. And so while he was praying, the Spirit of God came upon Jehaziel, who said, don't be afraid. The battle belongs to
The Lord.
Of course.
The Lord. No need to fight. Just stand and wait. And so they went out to the battle with a band.
Yeah, they were just like,
They're like, let's put our best voices in the front.
yes. We want some sweet harmonies.
I mean, this is like lambs to slaughter, I feel like. Goodness.
So who was this? Jehaziel? Jehaziel was the bugle boy from Company B. Da, 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 da. Okay. That's
Yikes.
right. And so they're jamming out to the Lord, and they sent a surprise attack on the enemy's armies, which they ended up fighting each other.
Yeah. So then Judah and the army just stands on this like overlook and watches the Ammonites and the Moabites
my
fight
goodness.
each other.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude. I don't know. What do you think the Israelite band would play?
I have
You think
no
it'd be
idea.
Mario Brothers?
Yeah, because I was like, I'm pretty sure that was Mario
Da, da,
Brothers.
da, 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 da.
I just,
And they called this valley. So they go down there. There's nothing left except for some really nice clothing
Nice.
and
yes.
some
Secondhand blessing.
and some cattle. And they're like #blessed.
I got new clothes and food.
And like just step over the dead bodies and be thankful. And so they call that valley Blessing Valley. Little on the nose for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot.
So Jehoshaphat was 35 when he became king, reigned for 25 years, and then did right, was in the eyes of the Lord.
Except for that whole alliance with Ahab thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, it retells the fact that he had an alliance with Ahab at the end of the chapter of 20. The chapter of 20 or just chapter 20?
The chapter
The
of
chapter of 20. Anyway, at the end of chapter 20, it retells that whole alliance thing. And I'm like, again, with the editing, you have said this. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're on day 102.
Whoa.
And we're on...
Chapter 21?
Yeah, chapter 21.
Your turn.
What?
Jehoram.
Oh, I mean, I can.
Okay.
So Jehoram, he reigns, and he's a wicked dude.
He's not good.
No, he is leading Judah into idolatry. Of course, again, the circle is continuing of yikes. God punishes him with a painful disease.
But first, he established his dominance by killing all of his brothers. As you do.
Be reasonable.
Yes. And because he was so wicked, Elijah comes into the picture here. And he's the one that prophesies against Jehoram and tells him he will be deathly ill because of all of his behavior. And he says, you'll have this terrible disease that will cause your intestines to come out of your body.
Yeah. I call this the T3 disease, aka tequila and Thai hot Thai. The next morning it's just a mess.
Yeah. Goodness.
Wow. So much information. Anyway. So so then he gets this disease.
Yes, he gets a disease and he dies unlamented.
Yeah. No, my version said not one person was sorry he was dead.
Oh, he's dead. Cool, it's over.
Brutal.
Great.
I'm wondering if they thought it was because he stunk literally or figuratively.
Oh, yeah. Goodness.
It was a mess, Chase.
Do you read my notes?
I did.
Gross. So in chapter 22, we have Adaliah. How do you say that?
Athaliah. Yeah, that's how I said that.
Athaliah.
What?
His reign is not very long. He does not last very long at all.
Ahaziah was the king.
Oh, Ahaziah.
Athaliah was the mother.
Oh.
That was his mother.
So, and Isaiah takes over. He was like next-ish in line.
Names are...
But
I know,
he's only next-ish in line because the Arabs came into the camp. They killed all of his older brothers.
Yeah.
It says he was wicked with his mom. However you say that.
Yeah.
Athaliah.
Yeah. Athaliah. Mm-hmm. And then he seizes power and he kills the entire royal family.
Oh.
Through Joash, her grandson. Yes,
Oh, that's right.
The whole royal family.
Okay, so Ahaziah the king, went with Joram, who was Ahab's son.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, Athaliah was from Ahab's family as well. So they're like cousins.
Yeah.
Or something. And they go and fight Aram. Well, Joram gets wounded and he goes home. And when Ahaziah goes to check on him, he gets killed by Jehu. Mm-hmm. So they said they did give him a decent burial because he was Jehoshaphat's grandson. But then this is when Athaliah panics. That's the mom.
Okay.
Because she was happy that her son was in position of power because she wanted to really rule through him.
Gotcha.
So when he dies, she murders everyone else who could succeed to the throne.
Great.
And so one of Ahaziah's sisters hides the youngest son, Jehoash. And so that she hides him for 6 years.
So, but Athaliah is the mom, right?
Yes.
And she seizes the throne.
Yes.
That's impressive.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this was her only path to power, evidently. So it's not a pretty one.
Yeah. Yikes. And that goes into chapter 23, where Jehoiada. I can't read today. I'm done. Jehoiada organizes a revolt, and Athaliah is executed, and Joash is crowned.
Yes.
And of course, the circle is complete again. The people have renewed their covenant with God.
Right. Jehoash is 7 when he becomes king, but he ends up renovating the temple. So he invites people to give money to renovate the temple.
You mean Ellis?
Yes.
Took money in to fix the temple.
He's like, let me make this sanctuary prettier. Because that is a deep desire of both Ellis, my son, and Jehoash.
It's like, how do I put so many Hot Wheels tracks in here.
Right?
That would be amazing.
Yep. Paper airplane ramps and whatnot.
Yes.
The balcony works.
So Jehoash has a pretty good start to his reign. And part of that is because Jehoiada, who was the priest who helped overthrow Athaliah, he lived a long time, 130 years.
No, thank you.
That's
That is
honestly
so many years.
too much for
No,
me.
thank you.
But when he died, the other leaders of Judah encouraged Joash to go ahead and set up that dadgum Asherah pole. Hi! And some other
Not
idols.
even a pole.
It's just like a playhouse for
Like
those
it's like a fairy house that you put in like a garden.
you know those like little mini plastic play people. That's what it looks like.
Yes. The little
Play
people?
school. Little people.
Little
That's
people.
right.
Yeah, that's what they're called.
So anyway, so when Jehoiada finally dies, the people who come behind him are like, we don't really need to do what Jehoiada said. He was just an old guy. And so Jehoiada's son is mad that Jehoash goes ahead and starts worshiping idols. And so he confronts Jehoash. And so Jehoash is like, I'm sorry, you're dead. I'm the 7-year-old king. I don't think
right.
he's 7
I'm
anymore.
7.
I'm 7 and you're dead. Anyway. So then,
Goodness.
because Jehoash was disobedient, God allows the Arameans to march against him, and he is punished, and everyone is mad at him. They're mad that he killed Jehoiada's son, and so they go ahead and kill Jehoash in his bed.
Oh my goodness. Does it say how old he was?
Well,
died?
he was 7 when he started, and he ruled for 40 years.
Oh, okay.
Which I said it would be nice to retire young and still enjoy your twilight years, but apparently he was just dead in his bed.
Well, 47 is probably ancient.
True.
I don't know. That dude lived to be 130.
130.
Yeah.
Can you
That's
imagine?
so
you just
much.
sneeze and everything breaks.
Yeah. Ugh.
Can you imagine like the snap, crackle, and pops when he's getting out of bed?
Yes.
Anyway,
Oh, ew.
so in chapter 25, Amaziah takes over. He rules for 29 years. He did what was right. Sort of. Sort of. He let some of the children who had plotted against his father, Jehoash, he let some of the children of them live, which was an act of mercy
Oh, okay.
that he said he attributed to the book of the law in Deuteronomy. So then he went to battle and he came home, and with him he brought the gods of the people of Seir. Why?
So I just imagine, like, how do you do you just bring one of those houses home?
Yeah.
like,
You're like, look, I got
look
an
at
Asherah
this.
pole.
Whoops.
But I got it.
I'm curious. When we've done some international traveling, have we accidentally brought any Asherah poles home? Because it seems like it's just like a real easy trap to fall into.
Yeah.
That goes back. That makes me cringe because it reminds me of like, another church I went to years and years ago. I visited, and they were like, "Oh, did you go into the store? You brought with you some bad juju. We're gonna have to pray over
This
your
is-
clothes." I'm like,
What?
This
Yes.
is like an episode
Yeah.
of the Brady Bunch when, is it Peter or Bobby brings back
yes.
the little idol?
Yes. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's right.
Yes.
Like. Anyway, the prophet, he's like, Ahaziah's like, look at the scentsy I got. And then he burns incense.
See, I got.
It's my favorite scent. It's sandalwood.
Oh, come on.
And,
it displeased the Lord.
yeah.
I get it.
God was like, I don't like sandalwood unless you mix it with something else like cardamom or lavender.
No, even with that, like, have you ever smelled incense? It's like
Yeah, incense is not my favorite.
It's not great.
like you smell it. It smells good pre-lit, right? But like a candle, you smell the candle. You light the candle. It smells like this candle that you smelled. But this stuff smells like burnt flavor.
That place in the mall that it was like,
Hot Topic.
no.
Spencer's.
It was not Spencer's.
Oh, across from Spencer.
It was, oh goodness gracious. But it was like the Earthbound.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
And you go in
I
and
can
you can
smell
You get
that
the bees.
store
You can
right
smell
now.
it.
Okay. So anyway, there's a prophet that confronted Amaziah, but he did not feel open to criticism. So he ignored him, and then he lost a battle to King Joash from Judah, not to be confused with Jehoash.
Oh, okay.
Who was also a young king, and he fled the city and he was murdered in Lachish. And God is like, thank you, next.
Oh my goodness.
So then we have Uzziah. Uzziah took over at 16.
They get younger and younger.
I was
Is
going to
this
say
27 or 28?
26.
chapter 26.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I just jumped way ahead. Look at me.
it said that Uzziah did what was right in the eyes of the Lord until he gained enough power and then he got a big head.
Okay.
And
It's like a
then
recurring theme.
he entered into the Holy of Holies.
Wait.
And
Was he
started-
struck dead?
Stop.
No, which is interesting.
Oh, I'd be like, see?
Yeah. The priests are very mad. And when the priests confront him about this, Uzziah became angry. And then a terrible skin disease erupted on his face.
You know what?
And it stayed there until he died.
You get late adult acne. That's what you get.
Is this like a goiter? I mean, I don't know.
Oh, I don't
So
know.
does it? I don't. I guess because he did what was right. Why didn't he die?
Chase, come on now.
I mean, rules are rules. You gotta follow the rules.
I don't know where that came from.
Oh my gosh. In the game of Temple, like this guy is about to get yelled at by Virginia. That's all I have to say.
Don't play charades with me. That's
No.
all I gotta say.
So in chapter 28, Ahaz becomes king. He was bad. This was the really bad guy.
Oh, okay.
He made images of the Baals. He burned incense on the Asherah, Cincy, and then he even burned
Trifecta.
some of his sons alive as a sacrifice.
Okay.
Yeah, I read this and I was like, this must have been like a common thing.
Yeah.
Because Solomon had to ban this practice. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
And I don't know how common it was in the sense of how often it happened, but it did happen in so many of the surrounding communities. So, yeah. And this goes back to the Abraham story. I know we talked about the binding of Isaac and how, it's just such a troubling story. But I was listening to another podcast by Pete Enns, and he talked about how, like, as troubling as this is for us, it was just the way of the world. It would not have been an unreasonable ask of God based on the mentality of how ancients like Abraham thought of what a God was and how God
Fair.
interacted with the world. So the fact that God does come in and say, it really was an act of faith of Abraham, and it would have been considered unfaithful in his culture if he hadn't have just done what God asked. So it doesn't make it less complicated, but it was very prevalent.
Yeah.
If we're still having to ban this,
Yeah.
1,000 years later, yeah.
Please don't burn your children or boil your kids in milk.
Yeah.
That's right.
Not even your goats. Just don't do it. I think I just got a splinter.
Ouch! Oh no! Did you do something that was in?
I was going to say, it's not an Asherah pole. It's a Sensi. Anyway,
Oh my goodness.
so he, Ahaz, the bad king, is defeated by Aram's king, and Israel is criticized for attacking Judah and taking prisoners, which makes God very angry. And this is where we see the Assyrian king, which the name is great, Tiglath-Pileser.
Okay.
Tigger for short.
We just call him, yes.
Anyway, I just see him bouncing on his tail all the way
My
to.
goodness.
The wonderful thing about Tigger is the thing of a wonderful thing.
That was not bad.
No, it wasn't. It was good. We had Winnie the Pooh last week. Now we got Tigger this week.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when he approaches Ahaz, it was more or less as a threat, and Ahaz kind of self-destructs. He completely defiles the temple, and like that, it's not good.
Ugh.
He like literally goes in and
Leave the temple alone.
right. So
Just think of like Regina George after the burn book pictures are up and she's
That's
running
exactly
through and
right.
she's like, ah!
very,
Yes.
very much that energy.
Yes.
And then we finally get to day 104.
All right.
We're at chapter 29. I need to catch up on my Bible because I need to fast forward. We just went through 3 real quick. Okay, so Hezekiah comes into the scene. And is this like a last hope for what's going on?
Right.
Hezekiah did what was right. Reopened the temple, did a deep clean. I love a deep clean.
In
Absolutely.
just 16 days.
I
it
mean-
specifies.
Ooh.
It only took 16 days.
Pretty impressive.
They
Yeah.
had everybody on board washing the baseboards,
Yeah.
getting the back of the fan blades.
Oh, yeah.
They got some of that Fabuloso out, elbow grease. You know, it's when you
Some of those magic erasers.
I love
'cause you
those. Are
know,
amazing.
they really are like voodoo.
They are.
deep clean. It's like walking into a place and getting a warm hug.
Yeah.
I think they lit some like sandalwood candles.
No,
around.
They-
no incense.
No? Okay.
Oh, the candles. Yes, not the.
What about the lampstands?
We need more lamps.
They were polished.
Oh my goodness.
Well, and finally, remember the Levites kind of left and did their own thing for a while, or they were moved to do their own thing for. But Hezekiah brings them back in and commissions them to cleanse the temple as well and rededicate the temple.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a religious revival. He put up a tent after cleaning, and everybody's coming to hear what's going on.
So in chapter 30, this is really interesting. I had to do like some extra external reading about this because in Chronicles we get the exile and the conquering of the Northern Kingdom in Second Kings.
Yeah.
It does not explicitly mention it in Chronicles.
Right.
Oh.
In fact, when I was reading, I was like, did I miss it?
Yeah.
Right. What happened?
So, but I think when we get the glimpses of Tiglath-Pileser coming to attack Judah,
Yeah.
it's because they've already conquered the northern kingdom of Israel and carried them away. And so that's adjacent to that, but it's not explicitly mentioned in the Chronicles version of the story. So in this chapter, Hezekiah schedules a Passover feast.
Yeah.
And it says, this is not since the days of Solomon has there been a feast like this. But what he does is he writes a letter to several different cities around the region. And what he's doing is calling for anybody who was exiled from the northern kingdom to come, return to the land, repent of their falling away, and to follow God again. And it's from Beersheba to Dan.
Yeah.
And so he's calling for all these people. Not a lot of people responded well. It says that some of his messengers were made fun of and laughed at.
They made fun of him.
But some did come back. And so this is where we get a little bit of the glimpse of the people of Israel returning back to Judah to join in this massive celebration. Mm-hmm. And so then in chapter 31, after this, Hezekiah continues to have more reforms, renewal of the covenant and of the just faithful life.
Yeah.
And he took down the high places, which are the pagan shrines, and he reorganized the priests and the Levites. And Chase has a note here that I'm going to have him explain.
So, like, the Levites go back to their ancestral houses. Like, this is where you were as a Levite, where you served. Remember those refuge cities that there would be a Levite in every place to do the priestly things.
Right.
And I kind of wondered, like, is this kind of the same frame as last names according to jobs? Like, this was your area, this is your space, that you are a Levite. And in our culture, we have, like, Smith is a common last name.
Oh, yeah.
Metal worker, Mill, somebody who does
Miller.
grains, and stuff like that. And then Patel, which is linked to farmers. And so we have these, so it's like Levite, you are going to go back to do what you are historically have done in your family.
Yeah. Things are spiraling quickly.
Yep. Okay.
Well, maybe not quickly, honestly, but they're coming to their inevitable end, and we see that Sennacherib is.
That's a great name.
Yes, seriously.
I love this name.
Sennacherib is Assyria's king. He invades Judah, but Hezekiah has actually made some physical reinforcements to the walls in the city. It holds them off, and then
I read this and I was like, Snatch-a-rib? Is that this guy's name, Snatch-a-rib? And I was like, it's morning, but I'm ready to eat lunch. I could snatch a rib right now. Where's a good barbecue place?
Okay. Well, hard to recover from that.
Okay.
But Sennacherib, if you will, taunted Hezekiah, makes fun of the Lord. And so Hezekiah and Isaiah, I love when the prophets come in. Yeah. Isaiah, they pray to God and they're like, please help us. And so God sends a messenger to humiliate this Assyrian army and sends them home in disgrace once and for all.
Okay, humiliate though. Does he like pants them and then you just gotta go home?
I think he does the Winnie the Pooh cut their clothes thing. Yeah. It's like, you're going to be butt out for the rest of your travels.
That's right.
He writes them a letter. He writes them a letter, and it's like, wouldn't that be a great way to fight a battle?
True.
You know what I'm going to do? You know what? I'm going to
Write a strongly worded list.
That's like
what happens.
My mom does this.
No, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like every time I get mad, I'm like, I'm going to write my congressman person.
Yeah.
What is it? Was it salutations?
What What is it?
Like the little.
I just think it's
little
Jimmy Kimmel.
pin.
Yes.
Like, thank you.
So
Whatever.
That's Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. I'm sorry, the other Jimmy.
The same diff. And so then we get the story about Hezekiah and his illness. Will he recover? I don't know. Let's check the sundial and see what it says.
Gotta check it.
And miracle of miracles, he does recover. He lives an extra 15 years. He dies a faithful king, and he is the last faithful king in Judah,
Yeah, that's it.
which is a big deal. Manasseh comes up. Manasseh is very bad as well.
Yeah.
He was
Super
only
bad.
12 when he took over, and it just started bad, ended bad. Chase said, "What 12-year-old doesn't do what is evil in the sight of God?"
You know, yeah. Mine says the most wicked king. So he's
Really?
like the worst.
Worse than the dude that burned his kids?
Okay, maybe not. I don't know.
had a-
They're all bad.
he-
I mean, I would like some context for that. I
Yeah.
believe your note, but I
Yes.
just want to know why.
I don't know.
He still had a long
He was
reign.
like one
He's
of
like-
the worst.
He was like 67 when he went to sleep with his ancestors.
I love that it said he would just worship anything, including the stars in the sky. Like that was.
He just wanted to worship things.
He was like, yeah.
Yeah,
Anything
just do
but
it.
God. So the Assyrians came out against them. I mean, my gosh, I thought we put the Assyrians to bed last time. But anyway, briefly, Manasseh repented and made peace with God. And so God delivered them then, but it did not stick.
Oh.
So then Amon, he died. Amon took over after Manasseh died. He did evil for just 2 years, and he was so bad that his own officials assassinated him.
Okay, yeah. Like we're just gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
And so who's next in line?
Josiah.
Yeah.
How old
The
is
8-year-old king.
Yeah.
Ellis is 8 now. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I think it's interesting, and I don't want to read too much into this, but there's a lot of overlap between Joash, the 7-year-old king from the I think the northern kingdom, and Josiah, the 8-year-old king from the southern kingdom.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe it just their names sound similar and they're both young. They also both did some reforms to the temple.
Yeah.
But Josiah finds the book of the law. That's this story. Josiah's the one that when they're cleaning up the temple, because every time there's a bad king, they have to clean it up. That's also like, how annoying would that be? Like, yo, we just got
Yes.
this back in order. Like, just put the items in the clearly labeled bins.
Right,
Like,
right.
that's all we ask. And so, they find the book of the law, which we assume is Deuteronomy, just based on some of the readings, but no one can interpret it. And I love this story. I can't remember if you were here last time, Virginia, but it's when they take the scroll to the prophetess Huldah.
Oh, hold
And
up.
she is the only one who can interpret the scroll. And I don't know if this is like a language barrier. I think this is more like it'd be like reading a passage of scripture that you hadn't read in so long, and you're like, what are we supposed to do about this? And so she sort of interprets it in that way, like a preacher would. And she tells them, like, God is pretty mad at how the nation has been acting, and it's only going to lead to calamity. And so when they tell Josiah this, he institutes massive reforms again. And then there's a lot of echoing here of Hezekiah.
Yeah. Party time.
Because Josiah does a Passover as well.
Oh.
Not since the days of Samuel.
Ooh.
Whoa.
That goes even further
Further than
back.
Solomon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but Josiah dies when he went out to meet the Egyptian king Necho in battle. And this is interesting because Necho warns Josiah that God is on his side. Necho's
I
side.
found this very challenging because, like, Josiah did what was good, right? Yet God speaks to Pharaoh,
Yeah.
whose faith places Pharaoh as a god. So Pharaoh's faith places himself as a god. So my question here was, where are the prophets here to help?
Yeah. Well, I think some of this is, remember, these stories are written down after the exile and after they've come back. And I think they're making sense of the destruction that's coming
There.
because it had to be God that allowed it for some divine reason, or else it didn't fit within their theological framework. So I do think there's some of that. Because what we see throughout all these stories is that God uses other surrounding countries as agents of judgment. Every time Israel steps out or Judah steps out from under the umbrella of God's protection by not following the law and by following other idols, God kind of gives them over to that tendency by allowing other people to come in and take over. So anyway, and the other thing that's helpful for me in this is that I'd heard this recently, and I can't remember where I heard it, but they're like all of these conversations and speeches that have been recorded up until like the last 100 or so years have been, I don't want to say made up, but are
embellished
dramatizations of the writers.
Oh.
Because they're like, even like what happened at the Battle of Alamo, like we don't know the pep talk that the lead commander
That's
gave.
true.
They all died.
They did.
And yet when we have these like historical retellings, we have like famous last word. Like, you know, we have speeches that nobody could record because we didn't have recording devices.
Right.
And they're like up until like very, very recent modern history.
Yeah.
Was that it? So, and so in a lot of, especially battles and things like that, they'll record this inspiring speech and somebody will be like, well, I've heard that person talk enough that I imagined what they would say.
Right.
So I think there's some of that happening here.
Fair.
It's not that these are not recorded conversations.
Right.
Like nobody was like, let me jot this down real quick, Nico, before you come in here and we battle it out at Megiddo.
A guy has like a pen and paper attached to him, and he's following everybody.
It's a chisel and a stone.
Oh yeah, he's like, guys, wait, you told me I gotta go back.
Ding, 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 ding. Anyway, so Josiah does not leave the battle, even though he's warned to, and he's shot by the king's archers. Anyway,
Willy-nilly.
yeah. And so that it's a good question, Chase. Is Josiah really the last good king? Or is there something here that we don't know about, and that's why he's defeated in battle?
Yeah. Don't know.
Chapter 36 is the final chapter in our readings, and it's we have Jehoaz. It's really a series of terrible kings. Like the toilet has been flushed, and they're all just
4 of them are just circling.
Yep, circling the drain. Got Jehoaz is removed by the king of Egypt, and his brother becomes king. Jehoiakim, he rules. He was evil. So Nebuchadnezzar, who's the Babylonian emperor, comes and attacks him and takes him to Babylon in handcuffs. And then Jehoiakim rules. He's evil. He only lasts 3 months. He's carried away by Nebuchadnezzar. Zedekiah rules. He's the last king of Judah. He is evil. The Babylonian king comes and attacks Judah and Jerusalem. Judah is defeated. The people are hauled off to Babylon. The temple is looted and then burned down.
Oh my goodness.
Anyone who was not killed was exiled to Babylon to serve as slaves. And these are...
Is this the first or the second time the temple has been destroyed? Since we've heard this story a few times.
Wait,
what do you mean?
This is the
first time that the temple has been destroyed historically.
Okay. Historically,
Yes.
okay.
And then we know it's destroyed again later in the with the Maccabean period, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then all of these were foretold by the prophet Jeremiah. It mentions him. And eventually, this is the very last verse or two of the entire book. It says, eventually the Persian Empire takes over Babylon, and King Cyrus decrees that the people can go back and the temple will be rebuilt.
Ooh,
and he will
okay.
help do that. So again, it's another kind of book closing of the book on that period of history where there was a nation of Israel, and then both the nation of Israel and the nation of Judah, and how they just kind of both fed off of each other and spiraled away from God. Now, I will say I read something that said Chronicles is really painted to show how Judah rather, is the little brother of big brother Israel.
Yeah.
And so, but remember in the story of Israel starting back from creation, little brother is chosen over big brother. Abel is chosen over Cain.
That's right.
Isaac over Ishmael. Jacob over Esau.
Yes.
Joseph over his 10 older brothers, and so it's this mirroring of
Fascinating.
how they were eventually they all did what was evil, but Judah held out longer, and so they're supposed to be like better for it.
Yeah.
Nice.
What I like is that it gives us another perspective from the Kings to the actual Chronicles. Like, here's how that lined up. And then we'll hear about the temple being destroyed again in Isaiah. It's just another retelling from the prophet lens, which is kind of cool when we get there. Yeah. I'm excited to go to Ezra.
I know. Ezra and Nehemiah is so interesting. Virginia and I talked about this last week, but Chase, you had mentioned, Chronicles is really a whitewashed version of Kings. It eliminates a lot of the evil doing of the most popular players like David, Solomon.
It paints them in a great light.
Yeah. Even Judah, it's like, but they really, like, they cleaned up a lot. They just kept, dirtying it back up. But, so, yeah. Any takeaways?
After moving, I wish it has only taken me 16 days to clean up and put away in my house. I'm like, you go.
Yeah.
I'll be there soon.
Well, they had like 5 million people working
That's
on
true.
it. So,
That's true. It's just me.
Yeah. Georgia probably helps
One of these
too.
days. She sometimes sits and watches.
Moral support.
It is moral support. Absolutely.
Yeah, just my takeaway from this one is just there's circles in the lives of the kingdoms. So there's like kind of our own circle of life, but God is always there. And when we're ready, God's there to restore and mend brokenness. So yeah, that was kind of my takeaway from the whole
I think that's good.
Yeah.
It does talk a lot in Chronicles, and I'm thinking it did in Kings as well, that, every time, especially the Southern Kingdom would make a mistake, God would be like, well, I'm very mad and I'm going to punish you, but also I remember my promise to David and to Solomon, and I won't destroy you completely. And
Just a little.
And what we see then when we get to the prophets, what we'll see is that even when they would have these like scathing prophetic oracles that they would tell, that there would always be like, but I will save a remnant of you. Like, I won't destroy you completely. You'll get back to the land. You'll get back how things were, which is not fully true in the sense of maybe the original King David, but we do see that hope lived out in their communities. So, all right. Next week we continue on in Ezra. And then Nehemiah will follow that.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with really either of those books, so it should be fun.
It will be fun. So thank you all for joining us. We are glad to be with you. We'll be back with you next week. And remember, even when these stories are complicated, there's one thing that's never complicated, and that's that Jesus loves you. Bye.
Bye.
Abijah.
Elijah.
Bye, Jeff.